recording, and we're live in the Facebook group. So what's up, everybody? This is round 2, and we actually figured out how to stream in the Facebook group, so we're live. I'm here with none other than Jason Drees, and it is, you have no idea the chaos that went into making sure that we're here today. And I'll let Jason tell his scenario. I currently made it with like 3 minutes to spare as I'm driving from Tahoe to Denver, and I got a flat tire and I dropped my car off at the tire shop and like ran across the street into a bakery / coffee shop, and I had like 3 minutes to spare to get the Zoom call started. So on my end, we barely made it, but Jason's been dealing with his own ordeal over the last 48 hours.
Yes. Yeah. I'm in Austin, and we had an ice storm here because normally we have triple digits for half the year, but 1 week of the year we get frozen here. And it was literally like that movie Frozen. Everything's just crusted in ice, like 3/4 of an inch thick. So trees down, power down. I haven't had power in 2 days. So I managed to get my iPad charged off my generator and get my cell connections working. So we are going live.
Oh my goodness. Here we are. So what are we talking about today?
Yeah. We're talking about like leveling up, right? We're talking about going up this year. Doesn't everybody want to level up this year? That's kind of the theme I'm seeing with my clients.
That it is, right? Everybody wants to, it's always like a common theme at the beginning of the year, right? The goals and the hype, kind of the beginning of the year thing. But I think it's especially prevalent, I feel like, this year, because I don't know if it has something to do with, because of the way the market is almost like shifting. People are trying to fight the momentum they're feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I can definitely feel it. Yeah.
This year started out kind of interesting, right? Because usually at the beginning of the year, there's always this kind of excitement for the new year. What I noticed in most people this year was like everybody's burnt out in January 1. Like we're just like the past 2 years, we've kind of been through the ringer, and we're just like enough already. So it's almost like the theme that's coming up for me personally, and my business and my content and my events and my coaching, is really doing less, right? But when you talk about doing less, like we'd all love to do less, right? We'd all love to work less hours, but we don't want less results, right? So the focus I'm working on this year is how do we double our results in half the time?
I like it. Yeah.
Because because we don't know how to do it doesn't mean it's not possible.
No, I mean, shoot, I just left. I told you, driven from Tahoe to Denver, right? And for most people, they hear that and they're like, "Oh, wow, cool, Dave was skiing." No,
yeah.
The truth, right? The Tahoe was a GoBundance event, and so I just spent the last 4 days surrounding by a bunch of like-minded men who are serious about growth and personal development, and it's always astounding when I get around my group of people. I'm like, oh wow, I could do so much more and not have to do so much more and still do so much more, and I need to step it up and not step it up at the same time.
Yeah, we get patterns though, where we get so focused on our life, on our things, that we just kind of start continuing to repeat action over and over again, and don't really focus in on our mode of operation. And I know that you have a lot of members. There's a lot of members of this group that are looking at like becoming full-time real estate investors. I have most of my clients at Jason Drees Coaching are entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs. And a lot of them are like, how do I make the shift? When do I make the shift, right? And the same goes with doubling your income this year in half the time as with knowing when to leave your day job or shifting your day job, is not the mindset of actual success. It's the mindset of the process. And a lot of times that gets overlooked. A lot of times, because there's different types of mindset, right? And we can also use belief. I'm going to go up here so we're a little closer to my face here. So we're going to go. So there's like the mindset you're operating from. So a lot of times we're focusing on the mindset of the end result. Like we're obsessing on how to get this, right? But we don't really focus on how our mindset of how we do it, right? And when we start to become aware of our mindset of how we actually work, create success, that's where we create like the most monumental shifts in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. The how is the part that people seem to get stuck on, right? They sit around and they go, oh, I want to do X. How do I? And it's like, that's great, but that's not the part that you need to focus on first.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because our brains know that at the end of the day, it's an action we need to run. So we think it's a strategy. But the thing, everybody, you want to write down and like write on your wall and write on your forehead, so we see in the mirror, is that like lack of strategy is not the problem. But if we're not paying attention, we get caught up in chasing strategies and chasing mentors. But everybody has a different formula because everybody's life is different. So the simple way to think about it is, if you don't know what the strategy is, you're in a mindset that doesn't know what the strategy is. So the strategy does not exist in the mindset that you're in. And in the mindset you're in, that includes what you can think of or what you can copy from mentors as well. So we end up getting stuck on trying to solve this strategy problem, when the reality is this lack of strategy is coming from a misaligned mindset. So when we move the mindset from misalignment to alignment, we then create the opportunity for the strategies to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's funny you say that. The prime example, I mean, well, a prime example, right? I've been fighting, I don't even know if fighting is the right word, but finally coming to terms with like where I should be putting my energy over the last couple of months, and more into my brand and my content, my mastermind, and my the things that I'm better at, the marketing and the networking and the communicating and then the content and the connecting side of things. The networking and connecting is really what I am passionate and enjoy. And there's like nothing that brings me more joy, I don't think, within my community than either solving somebody's problem by introducing them to someone who crushes it, or by like making an introduction and then like 2 months later hearing like, hey, I don't know if you remember, but you introduced me to so-and-so and XYZ happened. And I'm like, oh, like that's just so much joy, right? It's like everybody wins. And so like the more I lean into that, this year or this past month, we had almost 4 times the number of members join the mastermind that we've had in any month previous ever. And it was like, oh, this is the first time I've ever run a webinar, the first time I've ever actually like had a CRM or like kept track of anything as far as like any metrics. I've just always kind of been like, if they join, cool. It was the first time I actually took anything seriously and was like, oh, I should actually like treat this like a business and actually pay attention to it instead of just like this hobby. And I was like, I'm going to lean into this a little bit. And literally first month, I hit the Q1 goal in 30 days. I was like, oh, well, that feels a lot better. And actually, I blew past the Q1 goal in 30 days by 8 people. I was like, all right, well, and it was like fun. It didn't feel like work. I'm like at events. Anyway, so yeah, it doesn't feel heavy. Like it was just like a aha, like this is where my energy needs to be focused. This is a confirmation of it, and it just feels good. So it's nice.
And I love to hear that, right? So it almost seems like what I'm hearing you say, David, is that by leaning into and focusing on what I'm excited about and what I'm good at, which you previously probably never would have thought would generate revenue, that actually generated the revenue by you being in your sweet spot, in your lane of your magic, where your corporate conditioned brain probably tells you I need to do Facebook ads or marketing or like things like that, right?
Oh man, if you had told me 5 years ago that the like 2 of my biggest income producing assets or income streams, that one of them would have been building a community of people. I was homeschooled in high school. I was that kid who like spent all of high school trying to pretend I was somebody that I wasn't to make people like it, right? So I was homeschooled. I like struggled with my identity for a long time, faked an ego, like whatever. So if you told me like 15 years ago that my two biggest income sources would be a community that I've built of people who are serious about something and come together around like this thing to learn, or basically just making introductions. Like my second largest income stream in the community is making recommendations of like just various things, right? Affiliates or referrals or introductions to agents and lenders that I trust and whatever. It's like literally just making introductions to people that I know. And when they crush it, I get a little kickback. And if they don't crush it, I don't get anything, but they do crush it. So it's amazing. And it's like, it's a win-win because the person that I made the introduction for doesn't pay a penny for it. And it's like, if you had told me 10 years ago that the most money, or that I would make more money saying, oh, dude, I know someone awesome, let me introduce you to him, and then making that introduction, then I made working 100 hours a week in the Marine Corps, I wouldn't have believed you. Pretty cool.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. So are you still leaning into that space of like networking, connecting?
Yeah, so I slacked off a little bit over the last month or two, or a couple of months, because I got sucked into the minutia of some other things, and I was wondering why I was feeling so heavy and just, you know. And about 3 weeks ago, I posted, I was like, I need a COO. Something's wrong, chaos, like something's off. I don't know what's going on. And he came in and he was like, bull in a china shop for like a week and a half, and then he was like, all this stuff needs to change. And it was like, okay, that actually helps me kind of go back the right direction. And then I went to Tahoe, and it was just like the same 5 or 10 guys that I always run into in the GoBundance circles were just like, dude, you already know the answer. It's XYZ. I'm like, oh yeah. How did I like get off track there? How did I miss that? And so, yeah, right back on track. That's the goal. As soon as I get back to Missouri, is like all back in on this. Yeah, feel good about it.
And that's fantastic, because that's also the process too, right? So you tapped into your flow and your magic, and then it started unfolding, and then opportunities started to come up, and you're like, oh. But let's also notice that the opportunities that popped up was probably more a mentally conditioned, that's what you're supposed to do opportunity, as opposed to staying in the magic, right? And then when you started to follow the, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do path, then it got heavier. We got that coaching session. I think it's coming out of my podcast next week. It's airing, where everybody will see that conversation. But it was really like, oh, that's not working. Then you're back to the magic. And I'm finding the same way too. Like over the past like 18 months in Jason Drees coaching, last year for me was really a big exercise in learning all the things that don't work. Last year was like, okay, a year of lessons that I don't want to learn again, about profitability, about hiring, about staffing, about pricing, like just across the board. I did all the things you're supposed to do, and it didn't work. But at the end of the day, I've actually got to figuring out what I'm supposed to be doing, because when you start to run a business, it can be difficult to think about or to know what you're supposed to be doing. And I love to hear that you're saying that if I network and connect, that's like the foundation. Everything else falls through, because that's a lot of work to get to that realization.
It's taken some time, for sure. Yeah, not always the easiest thing to come by, to go, especially because, I mean, realistically, right? You know, we could get into like the whole like discussion, like the Kelly Flanagan like trauma discussion, right? About childhood and all that stuff. But like, even if you get past that, the amount of time it took me to get past, and I still struggle with time to time, but at least I can recognize when it comes up now, like the imposter syndrome of like all the stuff from being homeschooled. And not that there's anything wrong with homeschooling. I actually fundamentally love a lot of the things about homeschooling, but from a social perspective, even for somebody as extroverted as me, there are downsides to being homeschooled. And I overcompensated for that in a lot of ways with ego and falsities about myself that were crushed when I got in the Marine Corps, right? Like you get in the Marine Corps and you're like, I have all these false identities to overcompensate for who I really am and all my insecurities. And the Marine Corps is like, we don't give a flying fuck. Nobody cares about you. really care. You are a piece of shit. You are a maggot, like, and you're like, I am worthless. And then they build you back up and you're like, oh, okay. And then it takes a long time to get back. I spent so long, like so afraid of having an ego or getting back to that point that it was like, they talk about like having the governor, right? Like you have like, oh, I limit myself to like 70%. I felt like I probably limited myself to like 40. It was like, I was so paranoid that imposter syndrome kept my ceiling so low for so long. And it's finally getting up to like, oh, okay, I am capable. I do believe in this, but it's taken a long, long, long time. And so to get to where I finally am like, not only do I believe that I can make money doing that and I can lean into that, but just the fact that I can finally believe like, oh, people actually do like me, like for who I am. Like people do believe. People do like, this isn't a facade. This isn't false. Like this isn't, when people that I look up to and respect say, really genuine things or call me out on stuff. And usually it's like, it just hits. You're like, oh yeah, that's totally in my head. This is the real deal. And the only thing that's off here is what's going on back here. And luckily I've surrounded myself with enough really, really, really solid people that I've been able to come out of that. I mean, prime example, right? Gabriel Hamill. We're at lunch 2 days ago and Gabe's a rock star. And we're sitting at lunch and I had made a connection like 2 days ago or 2 or 3 months ago for he did a bridge loan for a buddy of mine. And not an insignificant amount of money, but that's not the important part of this. And I was like, oh, hey, how'd that work out? And he's like, oh, it worked out great, blah, blah, blah. And he was just like, he looked at me and he was like, you made an introduction, and an introduction for you to anyone is good by me. And I was like, oh, well, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. And then like later on that day, he was like, said just like there was like another one or two. I'm not, we won't get David all choked up, but like he said like one or two other things that just like deep into the soul. I'm like, oh man, like I really look up to this guy and he believes in me. Yeah. And so it's cool to see like that transformation in life. And really all it is it's like just the journey of like finally starting to realize who I actually am and believe in that ability and recognize like this is the thing that I do. And if I just stop pretending and do it, good things happen.
Yeah. And have you heard my perspective on imposter syndrome before?
I feel like
that's okay.
You called me out on it on my podcast, I think, but I'm trying to remember exactly how you worded it. But yes.
But imposter syndrome is a good thing, and it should be celebrated, because what imposter syndrome actually means is your success has outgrown your identity. So right. you've created more success than you think you should. So I think I would take that all day long. Because we do this work, and sometimes the thing that actually holds us back is our vision of ourselves, our identity of ourselves. So that while we're creating success, it's literally, and it's a good example of mindset too, because mindset is a box you live in. Identity is a box you live in. Financial mindset is a box you live in, right? If you're not careful, financial mindset, and you start earning more than you've ever made before, you'll self-sabotage. Because we have that internal barometer that's going to keep us in that comfort zone. So when we feel imposter syndrome, what you do is you go, pat yourself on the back and say, whoo, let's do that again.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah, I read that there's a book called Overcoming the Imposter. And it's funny because I read it thinking like, this is going to be the book that changes my life. It was recommended at Park City. And I read it. And it was like the most, it kind of did change my life, but almost in like the opposite way that I expected, because it was like the most unlife-changing book ever. It was like, the whole book was basically like, imposter syndrome is everybody has it, and you just got to keep doing the thing because everybody has it. And like, this is how it sometimes shows up, and everybody has that kind. And then sometimes it shows up like this, and everybody has that kind. And everybody has this kind too. And you might have had this kind too, and everybody has that. And like, so you just kind of got to do the thing because everybody does the thing. And it was like, the whole book was basically just like, get over it, dude. Everyone has it. Like there was nothing profound. And yet in that was something so profound for me that I was like, oh, why have I let this be a thing for so long? It's like, you're right. It just, I don't know. It's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll celebrate it next time.
There you go.
So
I like it.
So you were at 40% before. What percentage are you at now of your potential?
Ooh, I would say I'm in like I almost would say I'm closer to that 80, but I think the reality is probably 70. And I say that not because I think I'm holding myself back, but because I think that I've still got a lot of things that I've got room to grow on. And I probably would have said 80 about a month ago, but I'm so excited about what I've taken away from the last week and what I'm about to, like when I get to Denver, I'm going to hang out for like 12 hours with a few people. And I think I'm going to disappear to a cabin in the woods with a piece of pen and paper and just write a whole bunch of stuff out over the next 2.5 days and tell the world I died. Just disappear. And I'm so excited about what I think the next 2 or 3 months look like as I finally get some people in seats and focus my energy on what I want to focus my energy on. That I think that means that I've got a little bit more. I think I bumped the ceiling is what I think. I guess what I'm saying. I think that I might have been at 80, but I think that the potential of the engine just might have gone up a little bit as I realized something.
Are you ready to be 100%?
I almost wonder if you're ever really ready to be 100%, but I feel like you're going to challenge me on that. And I'm sure that's something in my head. I don't know.
Yeah, because what I've found is like that last 20%, that last 10%, that last 20% is when you stop telling yourself you're not 100%. Because I'll come across, it's like we spend our lives in the present moment. Everybody here in this group, we are blessed or cursed with the ability to see things better than they are. So we're trying to make them, whether it's growing our jobs, our income, our career, we're trying to make them. And sometimes we can get so fixated on the future that we sacrifice the present, right? I actually had an episode of my podcast called The Entrepreneur's Curse where I talked about this, right? Where we're just like fixated here. But the thing is, and I hear this a lot, I run into so many people and they go, okay, every day I just got to improve myself every single day, a little bit every single day. The problem with that, and what most people don't realize, is that the mindset that you're operating every day determines what you do in the future, right? What you do today determines what you do in the future. But when you say when a person says every single day, I need to improve myself every single day, they're basically saying every day I'm not at my best. At which that belief will prevent them from ever hitting their best. So what can be created as a positive ritual and a positive belief to drive growth actually creates self-resistance and limits success moving forward. Now, there's a small language adjustment that allows that same methodology to run, because basically I need to make myself better. That means I'm not the best. Versus from a place of growth, you want to do a place of expansion. So you wake up every day and says, I can't believe how amazing I am today. And I'm excited to expand who I am, right? See the difference? And it's something I pick up on, because as a mindset performance coach, the things that I actually make people change, like when I work with Brandon Turner and like you and other people like that, and make them, Jamie Gruber, those guys, and like help them start to expand, I'm not changing the future. I'm changing them right now by removing a lot of those references that are telling them they're not. So really, the biggest shift I've made in coaching over the past 3 years, as I started to understand alignment coaching as opposed to results-based coaching from Tony Robbins, is that it's not about creating the success. That's not the fastest way to create success, is to create it. The fastest way to create success is to remove the resistance to the success occurring.
Yep.
Because a lot of times we have these if-thens. Well, I have to do this first, or I'm not enough, so that you're literally preventing it from happening.
I was just going to say, it's funny. I talked to Diego this week, and Diego described your coaching method as the mindset coaching version of a chiropractor. He's like, every time you talk to Jason, you just get realigned. It's like, and I'm back on track.
Okay, here you go. Who's next?
I was like, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, right back in. Oh, and now we're back to where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, because if this is you and this is your target, if you're off target, you're wasting time.
Yep.
Right. So I help with the alignment piece. And what it really does is when we start playing at a level of success, and we're playing at the level of, I don't know how to get there, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know how I'm going to generate income to replace my day job. I don't know how I'm going to do that. That's where the mindset alignment matters the most. Like, it matters so much. So that's why coaching is such a powerful thing, because coaching helps you stay in alignment. It'll absolutely instead of this much time, it'll take it down to here.
Love it. I'm looking to see if there's any. I've got a couple comments, but no questions yet. So keep my eye on the chat just to make sure if there's any questions that I can.
How long is the delay here? There's a little delay.
So it's funny, we'll stop and then I'll go to the Facebook group and I'll see us still talking. I'm like, yeah.
I know. I see my head looking down. Yeah. So let's do some coaching on you because I'm talking to you. So let's just notice, prior to this call, I thought I was 80%. What if that 80% was actually 100%? And what if 100% actually was as simple as being open and giving it all you can give that day? Because a lot of times we compare ourselves, right? And our best is different on different days.
That absolutely makes sense. Yeah. Completely reasonable. And you're right, because we compare ourselves and get stuck in that trap. Giving yourself grace.
Yeah, and if you notice from my language, I don't really have language like that. I've been now it's still there, but I've spent 10 years removing the limiting language because I've been in coaching, professional coach for 10 years. I got a cut here. Bleeding. Anyway, so I want to ask you a question. So 100% now, open, able to give it all you got at the best. And some days, if you're feeling sick, then your best is going to be lower that day. What would be impossible, completely impossible for you to do in the next 90 days, but would be a lot of fun to do anyway?
A lot of fun to do, completely impossible. There's a lot of different things. I mean, what would be really fun to do that I feel like would be impossible, that is something I just started opening the door to a conversation about, is a business idea that I kind of failed on about 2 years ago. I tried to white label this thing called Veteran Media Services, where I took the podcast editor that I was working with, and I white labeled and charged a little bit more and helped some people out. And it fell apart because the other company fell apart. And I was like, I don't really have the operations back end to build that out. But someday I would like to build like the media company to help other people build their own social media presence. So, podcast brand, social media, build their own presence online. I get asked about that all the time. The coach, the brand, the content. And we just opened the conversation with yesterday and the day before, me and my COO, about I really want to go hard in the paint on my content again. I want to hire out my own team. I don't want to go VA. I don't want to hire some team to come in and help. I want to hire my own people, build my own systems with him, with the intent that once we have proof of concept that we blew it up for me, that we can begin the process of building that out. So I think impossible in the next 90 days at least, but a lot of fun would be to have that completely built out, completely operational, and like rolled out to at least within my mastermind community, if not within the entire military millionaire community, as like a, hey, if you want to build out your community, your brand, your platform, like we're a one-stop shop for podcasts, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, whatever you want to build, we can coach you on it. We can edit it. We can publish it. We can schedule it. We can do the SEO. We can tell you what you should be filming that day. We've got the creative director, got the logo design, the brand design. Like we can coach, and we can coach you through the how and the what and the why and the who and the, you don't know anything? Great. We'll help you figure it out, because I really believe in the power of the online presence. And I'd love to help people do it. There's a lot of ways that I think that fits in with my unique ability with the networking and connecting and what I enjoy online. So yeah.
So for everybody watching, did you notice how, go ahead.
So that feels good to say out loud. No one's heard that. There's only one person that knows that conversations happened, and he's probably watching this.
Yeah,
well, I just told him today that we have to wait until the rest of everything is in place before we roll that. So he's going to be like, "Wait, I thought we just talked about pausing that until we were in place with everything else." And he's going to be like, "Ah."
Well, you know, you know, putting it in motion, you could adjust the timing, you know. But I love asking this question. It's one of the primary questions we ask, and it's like from my book, Do the Impossible. We actually do sessions for clients on these. I do the impossible goal setting session, because what usually starts as a question of like disbelief pulls out an intuitive answer. And then when you watch this, you can see the person the question's asked start to go, that's impossible. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wait, no, it's not. It's totally possible. So there's like this big shift in the process of that question. Because that's why I think everybody should be aiming at impossible targets. Because impossible targets isn't just about doing difficult things. When you aim at an impossible target, it transforms you, because it requires everything out of you. And life will, because we're all like, whether you're a billionaire or you're broke, like everybody has problems, right? They're just different types of problems. There's always challenges, there's always stresses, there's always growth. And I find that like literally 90%, 95% of the clients that I've worked with are aiming way too low when I first meet them, because they don't know what to do. They aim lower because of past references or past failures or whatever reason. But you need to aim at least one impossible target, because when you find the right impossible target, it lights you on fire and passion flows through you, and it challenges you, and it's difficult and it's really hard, but the results are ridiculous, and it transforms the soul of who you are and everyone around you.
Yeah, like kind of goes right in line with something David Osborne said this weekend, when he said, if your vision or your bubble is big enough, then it will attract, like, everybody within your space can fit inside of it. He's like, so if the problem is that you feel like you're not attracting the right employees or the right talent or the right whatever, it's that your vision, your bubble is not big enough. And so, right in line with you saying, like, if you do have that goal, it'll light people up.
That's awesome. Yes. So is everybody else listening ready to level up this year? Yeah. Any comments here?
You've got a couple in there.
Yeah.
More questions on this? No. The mindset policy is like, I always wonder, like, what is the question you should ask? Like, what do I think about? What is the thing? Because it's like you think, like, what is the thing I do? Well, I don't know if that's not really the right question to ask, right? I guess that would be the question, right, Jason? What questions should people be asking, or what action should people be taking if they are wanting to think about leveling up or starting to level up, or what, or within your community, what resources are there to help people start realizing some of this potential?
Okay, so so what should they be doing, right? So number one, they should aim high enough, aim at the right target. Number two, put themselves around like-minded people. So if they're in this group right here, fantastic. If they go up to the mastermind, their success is going to grow. Like I have an elite inner circle, and all my clients in my inner circle are, as soon as they go in there, they accelerate, right? Also coaching, you cannot be coaching. Coaching will make you go faster. And the reason you come to coaching isn't always business. What you get out of coaching isn't always the reason you came there. Sometimes you come for money, sometimes you come for strategy, and the right type of coaching will transform your life and everything in it. Because it's basically most people just don't take the time to reflect on themselves and their process and get input on somebody who can help them. So when you bring a coach into the mix, that really transforms them. And that's why in my community, I have a mastermind like you guys do, in the client community, and we do one-on-one coaching, and we also do live events. I think we have a contest, right? We're going to give away some coaching contracts.
That's the goal, yes, sir.
Everybody like free coaching is better. Although I am reluctant to give away free coaching, because because just for the fact, and I'm gonna give away contract, but I'm gonna make an adjustment to it because like free coaching doesn't work. You have to invest. So I'm actually changing it from free contracts to $100 contract. So because there has to be an investment, you know. But when
for the record, for anybody listening, $100 contract is a ridiculous discount on the value of this, though. So don't think like, oh man, it's $100. Like we're not going to name the price, but just know that the coaching that Jason and his team provides for $100, it is essentially free, but there is skin in the game. So that's the key is you got to put some skin in the game, or you're not going to commit to show up.
Absolutely, right. So it's like, and the question you want to ask yourself is, are you ready? Because what most people don't realize is like, with the growth and success comes more stuff, and some of that stuff is work, time management. Because I've been in front of rooms speaking so many times, and I say, everybody put your hand up who wants to 10x your revenue, your income. Who wants to make 10x the income this year? And everybody's hands goes up. I'm like, who would like 10x the emails this year? Who would like to 10x the customer complaints? And the hands go down, right? So it's like, if you want to start playing at that level, you have to be open to everything that comes with it, right?
Yep.
And that's one of the ways we end up being in resistance to the target, and we don't know it. So a lot of times, one of the things that coaching does is it helps you realize and get out of alignment with yourself. So instead of pushing yourself, you're all going in one direction.
Love it, and that's actually a really good mentality. I hadn't actually thought about it that way. Like you're resisting it just by saying, "No, I don't want all the emails." Like, well, that's a resistance. You can find a way that you can. Should have got coffee when I sat down. You can solve the email problem, right? You can outsource that problem. You can, like, that's not the issue. The issue is the part that you're saying, oh no, hang on.
Yeah. So that's, because imagine like one of the newer members of GoAbundance, and they're starting to hit some success, and then they're starting to business to grow. How open do you think they would be to like growth problems, right? They'd probably be a little resistant, as opposed to David Osborne. He probably doesn't resist any problems because he knows he can manage it, right?
Yeah. Some of the conversations from that man this weekend of like, oh my goodness, some of the stuff that we'll talk about that stuff offline, but man, some of the conversations over it always astounds me. People are like, what do you guys talk about at GoAbundance events? Money? Like, yeah, I mean, not really. Like, kind of sometimes, I guess, but not really. Like, we talk about how we're all failing as husbands and fathers, and people talk about psychedelics and spiritual journeys and failing in marriages and trauma in childhood and like deep stuff. The very first like 10 minutes in the event, Matt King is like, we're going to get to know everyone at your table. I want you to ask intentional questions. Here's 5 examples. And they were like really deep questions. And then one of the guys at the table was like, we'll do this one instead. 10 minutes. We had 1 minute per person to go around the table. And the question that was asked at the table in that 10 minutes to get to everyone at our little table was, what lie are you currently telling about yourself? And the guy who asked the question led with, I am a terrible husband, or I tell myself that I'm a good husband and I do everything I can to be a good husband, and I don't. I put my energy here, and I put my energy here, and I put my energy here. But the lie that I tell myself is this. And I'm like, oh, this is what we're doing. This is welcome to Monday. And like, that's the kind of stuff that you really get out of. So when you talk, you're like, yeah, David would be open to this. Oh yeah, he would. The things that he told on stage in front of 240 millionaires this week. Yep, David would be open to anything. So
yeah, and that's why having the resources to do things like this is just like, and everyone else could be there too, right? It's really at the core foundation of creating success or leaving your W-2 job. Like, it took me like 16 years to leave my W-2 job after I decided I want to, like 16 years before I replaced the full income. But at the core of it is a decision. And a lot of times I'll see clients who are just like, their first step is uncertainty because they don't know the strategy. And really, like, as entrepreneurs, you're always going to be chasing money, always, like managing it somehow. Like, you always got to find that. So it's like, and sometimes the entrepreneurs who are looking at becoming the full-time investors are just at an early stage of the process. And it's very easy to think at that stage, well, I need more money to do this. Well, you need to figure out how to find the money to do it. And then when you find the money, then the resources will start to show up. The masterminds, the coaches. What, that's $1,000 a month coaching? Yeah. Where are you going to find the money? Well, I don't know. You got to find it, because that's going to accelerate you and transform you. Otherwise, you blink your eyes in 3 years in the same place. So it's really that continual solving the managing the money problem. Because as an entrepreneur, like, you're going to become the boss. And for me, as having employees for multiple years now, I'm finally still figuring out what that actually means. Because it's such a transition from employee to business owner. But the first step is a decision.
It is definitely a transition, especially, and something that most of the guys and girls in this group can relate to, the employee to business owner, very similar transition that virtually everyone in my community will go through, even if they don't go into the business owner world, is from active duty or reservist, from service member to civilian. And, it's interesting because, like, if you've never served in the military, you hear that and you're like, well, like, being a civilian, like, you did that your whole life before the military. What's the big deal? It's like, well, if you join the military, you go active duty, like, that becomes your identity. Like, especially in the Marine Corps, right? Like, we don't say like, oh, I'm in the Marines. Like, I am a Marine. I was a Marine for 13 years. I am a Marine Corps. Like, that is literally your identity, that's who you are, that's what you are, that's 24/7 for 13 years. That was who Dave was. And then you leave the Marine Corps, and now I don't have that sense of purpose. I don't have that calling. I don't have that mission. I don't have that. I'm not around those people. And then you get back into the civilian world, and there's just a lot of things that come with that, right? Like, I can't interact with people in the day-to-day in the exact same way that I do in the Marine Corps, where you can, we're not exactly the most PC group of human beings. So, you can't just be walking down the street and be like, screw you, whereas in the Marine Corps, it's like, oh yeah, well, and so, like, a whole different beast. And everybody in the military goes through that on some level. And that's a massive, adjustment. And, unfortunately, a lot of people, that lack of purpose when they leave the military and that identity shift is too much. There's everyone knows about the veteran suicide issue. And unfortunately, I think that is the major causal piece, is like that shift and then not knowing how to deal with like those components. But that's a whole other conversation. But I've been around vets a little bit. I run a foundation, the Flow Foundation, that actually has done some vet work in the past. I was on the Black Rifle Coffee Network, which
with David Reed, his podcast over there. So I get it, right? There's work to do, and I feel like I've got more work to do, and that's kind of the reason I reached out to you to kind of partner together. So so I've actually got I've got two gifts for your audience, and one of the first gifts is a complimentary Do the Impossible goal setting session. And what a Do the Impossible goal setting session takes 20 to 30 minutes, but it aligns you with the right target. Because picking the right target is huge. It's a big thing. So I want to share that with your members, the opportunity to have one of those complimentary sessions to kind of get aligned with the right target, where my team will ask you 3 specific questions to get you in alignment with that. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to give away a 6-month coaching contract and a 12-month coaching contract. The 6-month coaching contract is valued around $4,000. I'll tell you the prices. The 12-month contract is valued around $7,500. And the way to enter that contest is to book in a Do the Impossible goal setting session. So you get the free goal setting session, you get an entry into the contest, and I think we're going to run this for about 3 weeks. That sound good? Like 3 weeks from today. So if you complete a Do the Impossible goal setting session in the next 3 weeks with my team, and we'll share the link with you in a minute, we'll get an entry to that contest and we'll announce it. And that'll be a 6-month contract or a 12-month contract. I'm giving away 2 for $100. Now, my only requirement is if you win that contract and you put the $100 down, you've got to show up, put in the time, because we will come after you, or we're going to give it to somebody else. And then the other gift, if anyone wants to join me in Austin, I'm doing a 3-day event, March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in Austin, Texas. Tickets are normally $1,000. Right now, I'm running a promotion to give 50% off. So right now, $497, 3-day event, lowest prices I've ever done. And it's basically a 3-day mindset transformation event. So it will basically align you with your biggest target and help break down your process this year into these 5 steps. Like, what's the outcome you want? What is the primary problem you have to solve? Right? Because whatever your big outcome is, there's a primary problem. What skill can you master? What skill can you master that automatically solves that problem? And then what habit do you have to run daily to master that skill? And then what value can we break it down to so that all of this happens focusing on one value a day? And we're going to do that in the business, personally, and then one for you. So I'm really excited about this new formula, because I think it's going to simplify execution for everybody and get us out of the weeds so we can be our highest version every day, align ourselves with success right now so success flows easier while we're having more fun along the way.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And then I don't know, I don't know if we let the cat out of the bag, but there's also going to be a concept. I'm going to just push this. If you're watching this today,
go for it.
Not that any of you are going to have enough time to do this, but you will if you're an action thinker. If you're watching this today, if you join the War Room by the time that Jason is speaking to the War Room tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central, and so if you join by 8 a.m. Central tomorrow, I mean, I guess technically you'd have another week or two, but you want to catch the live call tomorrow, not the recording. But Jason speaks to the War Room tomorrow. So if you join by then, he's running another contest specifically for the War Room where he's actually giving away that Austin ticket, not just the 50% discount. So, we'll bonus that.
And airfare and hotel.
Oh yeah, that's right. And travel and lodging for one of the members of the War Room.
Yes.
So
Jason Drees Coaching is giving away the event, and then my foundation, the Flow Foundation, will be covering airfare and hotel expenses to come to my live event in Austin, Texas. So little incentive to get up to the mastermind, because it's worth it. It's that level up.
None of you have been to Austin. It's a really cool city, so you should go to Austin.
So it's a little freezing right now, lacking some power, but it's a great place nonetheless.
I don't know what gives. That's not what I would have expected Austin to be. But by March it'll be 100 degrees. So.
Yeah, it's 1 week a year we get like this freezing and everything breaks and breaks. Like, it's actually, the power's out from like trees being down. Like, there's just oak trees broken everywhere. It's kind of sad. So this willow tree in our backyard cracked. So.
Oh man.
But yeah.
Well.
Yes.
I don't know. Is there any? Let me check to see if there's any questions in here. So far, it's just really affirmative. We got a bunch of fire emojis and some what's ups and some just soaking it all ups and
Yeah.
thumbs up sees, and basically people just really enjoying the conversation. So I know we'll drop the link in the chat, and then I'll make sure that I drop it in the Facebook comments as well for anyone who watches the replay. And then when I push the replay out to the audience via email, I'll drop the link in there as well. But if you want to drop that in the chat just so that I have the link as well.
Yeah, I'll get it to you in a second. My computer's not working because I'm without power, but I'll get it to you in the next minute or two. The link.
Oh yeah, no worries. So we'll get it in just a second. Yeah. Was there anything else that we missed, or we good? We wrap it?
Let me check my notes. I think that's it, right?
I think good.
Shake them up, aim at some impossible targets, make a decision, own your 100%, celebrate imposter syndrome, get a coach,
100%,
move faster. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah, I like it. Good deal. Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining me, especially because of, I'm just glad this worked out. I mean, you can tell I'm sitting in like the closed part of this breakfast cafe while they're trying to vacuum it to open it for the rest of the day for the burger joint for lunch, and you're sitting on a tablet while you've got no power.
I know it's about 50 degrees in my house right now. So, but yeah, no, it's great to connect. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to the group. So I'm excited to interact more.
Absolutely. And I look forward to tomorrow. Hopefully you have power by then. It's not 50 degrees anymore. And we'll get that link out to everybody, and it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. All right, David.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.